So as I've mentioned now, if you were watching Candace Owens' show yesterday, you'd have had the good fortune of seeing JTV content feature on her show. Why were we featuring on Candace Owens' show? Well, because I did an interview with Josh Hammer, and everyone was talking about Charlie's views about Israel. Why were they talking about that? Straight after Charlie Kirk was tragically, horrifically murdered. I find like the word assassination doesn't do justice. It almost sounds too clinical to the evil of what happened to Charlie. But literally, in the days after Charlie's murder, Candace Owens, I have to say I was a bit shocked because she was so close to Charlie. I know she's in the business of conspiracy theories, but to be so close to someone and then to immediately instrumentalize their tragedy for conspiracy theories and your own political ends, I found even shocking, even for her. But she decided to tell the world that actually it wasn't the lone wolf leftist trans rights activist Tyler Robinson that killed Charlie. It was actually Israel. Why? Because Charlie was about to turn on Israel, and he was about to be, Israel's worst nightmare. Therefore, Israel was going to decide to assassinate Charlie. I wonder why they didn't want to assassinate other anti-Israel voices who have massive platforms, like Candace, for example. No, they want to go to Charlie Kirk because he was kind of teetering a little bit. I mean, the whole thing is just, it's insane. It's utterly insane to think that Israel would risk a war with America. I mean, above anything else, America is Israel's central, key, critical ally. On the show of my episode with Josh was explaining to me that the night before Charlie's murder, Charlie arranged a Zoom call with him and Rabbi Pesach Wolicki to discuss the best and sharpest Israel arguments he could make for his campus tour. So she was showing that, and the first thing she had to say in her reaction was, it's very suspicious and disturbing that Josh kept plugging his book, and somehow that's disturbing. Let me first show you a clip, because there's quite a bit to say about this. Have a watch.
Rest in peace, warrior. And as you saw yesterday, Josh never forgets to plug his book. He never once forgot to plug his book. A few days after Charlie's death, he went on JTV, which is on the global Jewish channel, to discuss that last call with Charlie further with a host named Ali. And here is what Josh says about his book.
We actually did speak for the last time less than 24 hours before the assassination happened. We had a Zoom call, a friend of mine, him, a couple of his producers. It was a small call. We were literally talking, above all, about the anti-Israel questions that he expected to receive on this campus tour. And we were kind of talking him through talking points and strategy and how to deal with these expected hostile questions. And you held on my book, Israel and Civilization, Ali. The last words I think Charlie spoke to me were, he literally said, Josh, when the Israel question comes up, I'm just going to plug your book, Israel and Civilization, because I think that what you read in the book basically is how I feel as well. And that ends up being the last time that we spoke.
Well, you heard him. It's like Charlie's final wish is for you to buy Josh Hammer's book. I mean, it's like, hey, he literally says, like, his last thing he said to me actually was like, I'm just going to plug your book. What he wanted to do on his tour was just to plug Josh Hammer's book. And it's so sad that he never had the opportunity to plug Josh Hammer's book. Now, let's keep with this interview, because he's going to be asked more specifically about certain characters in the movement that are trying to, quote unquote, hijack Charlie's legacy by telling the truth. And remarkably, he is going to work, I swear, he's going to work in his book again. Take a listen.
Precisely as you mentioned, there have been people who, like Ian Carroll, and it pains me to mention her name, Candace Owens, because I know how close she was, and maybe still is to Charlie. But at the end of the day, she's chosen to hijack his death right now to blame it on Israel. I mean, it's just so disturbing. So first of all, what Candace was saying is she finds there's something to be very suspicious, disturbing about the fact that Josh Hammer is plugging his book. If Charlie genuinely said that he loved his book, and that's a great point of evidence, and this is something that's very close to Josh's heart, I don't really see how it is so heinous, how so terrible for Josh to be mentioning that in passing. What she's saying, you're kind of instrumentalizing Charlie's murder for your own ends. Well, the problem with that argument, if you're going to go down that route, is that this was Candace Owens plugging all of her merchandise on her show. This is literally a week after Charlie was murdered. This episode's about Tyler Robinson, and she's plugging her merchandise over and over again. So isn't she guilty of the very same thing, of instrumentalizing Charlie's murder? So I just think that is ridiculous kind of logic, and I think Josh has every right to mention his book, especially as it's relevant to the conversation here. But then it got even worse. So Candace decided to make a thing out of the fact that Josh retweeted an old Donald Trump tweet, the day before Charlie's assassination, where it said, "There should be public execution for all to see. You will end this fast." And Josh was saying based. Now, she and others were trying to imply that therefore was kind of foreshadowing Charlie's assassination. Despicably trying to suggest that Josh was involved in Charlie's assassination. Josh was a friend of Charlie's, and to implicate an innocent man, and given the kind of let's just say extreme and hateful kind of rhetoric, ideologies, and people she'll be feeding into with the kind of stuff that she spouts, she is threatening Josh's life. And goodness me, my heart goes out to you, Josh, and I'm so sorry for the pressure that Candace and the pylon that she might have been putting on you. But of course, as we all know, this was so clearly a reference to Zarutska's killer, since the footage of her graphic murder broke a few days prior. Of course, we all saw this horrific footage of that girl that was murdered on a bus. So Josh has confirmed that, and it is so obvious. And the fact that we even need to explain this to people and defend or rather challenge what Candace is saying shows the lunacy that these parts of the web have descended into. As Alice Beth Stuckey points out as well, if you look at the quote tweets of this tweet, Josh wasn't digging it up. This Donald Trump tweet was going viral in conservative circles that day. He was one of many on the right who reposted it. He's clearly talking about the serial criminal who killed Irina Zarutska. And Charlie Kirk himself was also publicly in favor of the death penalty. So let's have a look at this tweet. And you can see, if you go onto it, you'll see all the people that were retweeting it. Now, then what happened is Candace claimed to have her slam dunk moment. What was that? Which was that she said, look, this is a group chat with Charlie and some other key people in his inner circle, many of which were super pro-Israel. And they're having a discussion because Charlie was upset. He said, I've just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Jewish donors play into all the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. Someone responded in the group by saying, look, please don't invite Candace. That might feel good short term, but it's not good long term, in my opinion. Like all groups, we're going to get wide variety of opinions. That nasty free will thing that God bestowed on us makes life frustrating at times. Now, I'd like to just pause and talk about this for a second before I show you how Josh has, pushed back on this. Let's be clear. Charlie Kirk, his views on Israel were not one that you look at sort of categorize into one clear box. Like he's just super pro-Israel and that's it, or just in the, hostile to Israel camp. His views were nuanced. They were mixed. And Charlie, look, he was trying to manage a very fragile and increasingly diverging coalition, particularly on the issue of Israel. And there were elements where he may have felt sympathetic to some of the criticisms leveled at Israel's door, but I think a lot of it also was just because he felt that he needed to maintain that coalition. But I can't speak for him. And he was clearly upset with what had happened here with a Jewish donor pulling out over Tucker Carlson. I have to personally tell you that I think it is completely acceptable and reasonable for a donor to say, look, I'm donating to this organization because I believe that it's improving the values of my country. But if I think there is someone that you are giving a massive platform to who already has a massive platform that I think is deeply damaging to the values of my country and our society, and threatens the welfare and well-being of the Jewish community and beyond, and is just generally not good for our values, I think no organization is entitled to a donor's money, and I don't think you should be playing blackmail or all those kind of things. But one is entitled to say, look, I just can't keep giving to this because I feel that this is not something I want. I don't want my money to be going towards this. People are entitled to that, and Charlie's entitled to get upset about that. And I think his management of these issues were complicated and multifaceted. But at the same time, he also, whilst feeling frustrated at times with some of the ways in which the pro-Israel community dealt with people that were hostile to Israel, at the same time, he had a deep religious, biblical, and strategic conviction in the American-Israel alliance and in supporting of Israel from a religious standpoint. I think he also just didn't like being told what to do. And when he very much like, if you push me, I'll push back twice as hard. And so naturally, he's going to feel that with a donor. But the fact is, if you want to say that, therefore, this was the moment at which he turned on Israel, the key question is what Josh Hammer has just asked in his response to this, which I want to show you now. Here's what Josh said. I've been extremely reluctant to post screenshots from a murdered friend. It feels icky. I don't like it. But while I was offline this week for a holiday, don't forget that Candace accusations were coming out while Josh was observing Sukkot and he had his phone off. A high-profile, deeply unwell lunatic used screenshots of an intimate group chat that I was in with Charlie Kirk and some others to impugn my character in the worst way and allege I somehow had foreknowledge or worse of my own friend's horrific assassination. So Josh himself was actually in this group. In those screenshots, from about 3:30 to 4 p.m. that day before he was killed, Charlie was blowing off steam in a private group chat setting. Donors have every right to withhold donations, and organizations, CEO, chairman, have every right to then be upset with donors withholding those donations. That's just the nature of donors and donees in a non-for-profit space. As I've previously explained in articles which you can see on Newsweek, the notion that Charlie was turning on his career-long friendships with the Jewish people and the Jewish state of Israel, as opposed to sarcastically blowing off steam in a private group chat setting, is an egregious lie and is belied by the facts. 2 hours after Charlie blew off steam in that chat, I joined a Zoom call with him and a few others. The New York Post covered this Zoom call shortly after Charlie's death. In short, Charlie sought out our advice for how to better communicate the Israel issue on campus, which is what we discussed on our JTV interview, which you can check out. And we talk about that in detail. And it was all about how to be most effective with a younger Gen Z audience. Charlie was passionate about fighting the mind virus of conspiratorial Jew hatred, something he made clear over and over and over again. The final ever messages Charlie sent in this WhatsApp chat, which were delivered hours after the deeply out of context screenshots that the aforementioned lunatic and others have been discussing this week, made clear that Charlie was deeply grateful for our help. After our call, he felt more confident and reassured that he could make the case for the Jewish people and for Israel on college campuses. These are literally Charlie's final messages in the WhatsApp chat. And here he is saying, "Thank you so much for the help, guys." And then Josh responds, "Good luck as the campus visit starts. Don't hesitate to let me know or any of us know how I/we can help. By the way, what's your first stop tomorrow?" Charlie says, "Utah Valley U." Someone says, "Say hi to your Antifa friends," and Charlie puts a thank you emoji. Josh finishes by saying, these are literally Charlie's final messages in the WhatsApp chat. Emotions can run high at times, but Charlie Kirk remained a true friend of the Jewish people and the Jewish state to the very end. Now, by the way, I'm open to saying that Charlie, who knows what could have been in the future in terms of his views on Israel. I can't predict that. I can't speak for him. But the point is, number one, you want to say that Charlie was finished with Israel. The evidence is not clear for that. He was frustrated for sure. But number two, where it just gets ridiculous, and honestly, it's actually boring. And I'm only talking about this because of Candace's massive platform. To take it to the extent that you want to say Israel has caused the murder of Charlie, it's insane. Alice Beth Stuckey wrote something that I thought was very pertinent. You know what Charlie criticized a lot more than Israel? Islam. There are some very powerful people in governments who are invested in the Islamification of the West. So if we're just asking questions, why aren't we asking these questions? Why aren't we saying there's an Islamic country or organization that was involved in Charlie's assassination? And the answer is, as Ricky Ratliff wrote, because they hate Israel more than they love Charlie. Yep, there it is right there, as Seth Dillon put it. So I want to also show you what Sana Ebrahimi wrote. But before I do, I just want to get to one final tweet that Candace put out in response to Josh Hammer's statement, which honestly is just... you lose the will when you see this kind of stuff. She wrote, kind of weird that Josh Hammer didn't know where Charlie's first campus stop was. He says, like, I'm going to Utah Valley U. He's been telling everybody that the purpose of the call was to help him prepare for the debate. Oh my gosh. Yes, Josh was called in to help prepare for his arguments, not to prepare for every single stop of the campus tour. And know where exactly each of those are. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. The logical fallacies, the lazy thinking, and yet so many people, I'm told, go along with Candace. Sana Ebrahimi wrote, I genuinely can't comprehend how someone who calls herself Charlie Kirk's friend has managed to make everything about herself since the day he was killed. The tragedy should be about honouring a man who was murdered, about his family, his friends, and the countless people, including politicians and an entire nation, who are mourning his loss are going to feel his absence directly or indirectly. Instead, it has become a stage for her ego and chaos. What Candace is doing is not accidental, malicious, and deliberate. She knows exactly what she's doing. And frankly, it is not even about her attempts to implicate Jews, Erica Kirk, or anyone else. It's about the sheer indecency of exploiting someone's death to feed her own narrative and tear down what he built while alive. That kind of behaviour should be a crime. And lastly, before we finish, I want to show you Alice Beth Stuckey, who I'm actually going to click follow because I appreciate her. She breaks down the just ridiculous, absurd logic or lack of logic in what Candace has been saying about who and what is responsible for Charlie's murder. And I'll show you a clip of her show where she breaks this down for you.
Here's how conspiracy theories work, okay? Because conspiracy theories are different than critical thinking and question asking. And innuendo is different than investigation. And implication is different than investigation. And I'm not even pointing fingers right now. I've seen a lot of different Instagram posts, a lot of different X posts from a lot of different people, some that are asking good questions and some that are just spinning up suspicion. And again, those two things aren't the same. So this is what you need to look for when it comes to any claim. If it's a claim that I make, if it's a claim that someone else makes, especially when someone is creating a series out of multiple claims, okay? So this is how conspiracy theories work. One, you exploit distrust or gaps of information. So in this case, we don't trust the government. That's true. We have good reason not to trust the government. There have been things that the government has said that are kind of sketchy, like text exchange that the government claimed was between the shooter and the partner. A lot of people said that it seemed fake, although I think that there are some questions about that. to exploit pre-existing suspicions or resentment. So in this case, the people claiming that Israel was involved in this already didn't like Israel. So that to me is a little suspicious. It would be a lot more credible to me if the people pursuing this theory didn't already blame Israel for other things. If they were blaming Germany for this, I'd be like, oh, that's interesting, because I don't see any vested interest in accusing this particular country. Or if people who never criticized Israel in the past were like, yeah, I really think Israel is a part of this, then that might be a little bit more intriguing. But it just seems a little bit too on the nose and coincidental that Israel would be involved in a crime, and it's being found out by people who are already super critical of Israel. Another characteristic is giving partial truths. So there are some truths that are in this claim, as we already validated. Netanyahu didn't say everything was in that letter. Charlie did exchange words with Bill Ackman. Charlie was concerned with Israel's direction. So all of these things are true. But then there's also this aspect, giving full truths, but making it seem like they're tied together with a secret sauce of special knowledge, without ever actually providing the receipts and the evidence to prove those connections. So this happened, this exists, and these two things are connected because we should be asking how, why. So we should be asking, what do those two things have in common? How are those two things connected? What do those two things have to do with each other, and what do they have to do with Charlie's murder? I need to be told specifically. I need to be told directly. I need to be told explicitly, because if we're making claims about who is involved in Charlie's murder, I need the tangible evidence of those connections. It's not enough to just tell me that some things happened and some things exist. Also, as I said, innuendo is not investigation. So if someone knows something, if they have insider information, then they need to release it to the public. I don't want a drip campaign. I don't want multiple, a thread on this. I want to know. If we all are seeking the truth and I want to know the truth too, then I want to know up front. I don't want these, this person said this, but I know for a fact that that's not true. Tell me how you know for a fact. I want to know, how do you know for a fact, and what is the truth? Gosh, I really want to know, what is the truth? So here are my specific questions when it comes to this Israel claim. Why would Israel, whose existence is largely dependent upon the support of the U.S., take out one of the most vocal supporters of Israel and Judaism? Why would they target a confidant of one of the most pro-Israel presidents of all time? Would Israel really risk the further alienation of the American right, literally some of its only lasting supporters in the world, by taking out one of our biggest heroes? And would they do it in a way that internet sleuths can figure out? Because it's either Israel is very stupid or they're extremely cunning and conniving, but I don't understand how they can be both. And I've gone back and forth with some people in my DMs about this. One person said, oh, well, look at this. Look at how much Israel lobbies in our government. Look at how much they're trying to influence the media. Look at how many times they're, meeting with commentators, how they were talking to Charlie Kirk and trying to influence what he thinks. Okay, but even if that's true, and even if you have a problem with that, what does that have to do with this? Because do you know how many countries and how many corporations do that? Do you know how many of these entities are trying to influence American media? China, Russia are two of the main ones. Iran, another one. And, Charlie was a big critic of Islam, much bigger critic of Islam than he was of Israel. Charlie was a big critic of China. Charlie was a confidant of the president who has been very harsh on Russia. Tell me why there aren't a bunch of theories about those countries' involvement in Charlie's murder. Again, ask why it goes back to Israel. Charlie was critical of a lot of things and a lot of people and a lot of countries and a lot of different ideologies. Like, why is it his criticism of one part of what a particular government is doing in the Middle East? Why does that have to be the thing that probably led to his murder? It just doesn't make sense to me. It's not adding up to me.
Before we wrap up, I want to share something important with you. The entire anti-Israel movement is built on one central accusation, that in 1948, Israel stole the land, and ever since, Palestinians have simply been resisting. But what if everything we've been told about this story is untrue? What if the real history of 1948 shows not Arabs being forced out, but Jews, while seeking peace, having to fight for their survival against a genocidal enemy that willed its destruction long before Israel's re-establishment? Have a watch of the trailer for our new, groundbreaking and essential documentary entitled What Really Happened in 1948. And if you want to see the full film, just click the link in the video description. In 1948, the world witnessed the rebirth of the Jewish state, the State of Israel. A moment celebrated as a miracle of survival and self-determination after centuries of persecution and the horrors of the Holocaust. Yet for decades, this event has been twisted into a narrative of theft and catastrophe, with the so-called Nakba portrayed as Israel's original sin, where Jews allegedly stole Arab land and displaced innocents in a premeditated act of ethnic cleansing. But what if this story is fundamentally inverted? What if the cause and effect are the other way around? Not Israel aggressively seizing territory and Arabs responding in self-defense, but Arabs, driven by deep-seated hatred, rejecting the Jews' legal and historical rights to live in their ancestral homeland and waging a genocidal war long before Israel's re-establishment. In this JTV Plus documentary, we're going to uncover the unvarnished truth about 1948, the centuries of pogroms and anti-Semitic violence that set the stage, the Arab leaders' explicit calls for extermination, and the defensive war Israel fought to secure its existence. We'll challenge the pervasive lies head-on, showing how Arab rejection of peace wasn't about creating a Palestinian state, but about denying Jews the right to live at all. From the Nazi-allied leader of the Arabs in Palestine, the Mufti al-Husseini, to the forgotten occupations by Jordan and Egypt, where no Palestinian state was even considered, this is the story of a conflict rooted not in displacement, but in whether the Jews deserve to live in their homeland. Join us as we debunk the myths with facts, confront the historical record fairly but firmly, and reveal why 1948 was not an act of aggression, but a righteous response to annihilation. This is what really happened in 1948. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description.